All right. So before I get started, I always like to have an XKCD slide inside my talks because it's really not an actual talk without an XKCD slide. Since I am talking about Python, I decided to go with this one.
Wow.
Apparently, I chose the wrong XKCD slide. But I also have retitled the talk. I apologize, everyone. I know that you're all here to see me talk about how much I suck at Python. There may be a little bit of that, but for now, I am amazing at Python.
Wow.
So thank you.
That's not the talk I signed up for. I'm out of here.
I know, I should leave too. But first off, I'm Integgroll. If you can solve that, you know everything about me. If you can't, you should go back to school and get some more calculus assistance. I can't do it because I'm terrible at calculus. I like to curl, so like the ice sport, that's awesome. That's what I like to spend my time doing when I'm not doing this kind of stupid crap. And I work at a place where I would love to tell you where it is. However, I filled out paperwork so that I could come to talk. And the real issue here is that if I did tell you where I worked, I would have to fill out a lot more paperwork in order to maintain that job. So I do something security-ish related, maybe, or not. I love haikus. I should say love there. I apologize for only saying like. So for example, this is one of my favorites.
Why does it have an apostrophe?
Haikus are easy, but they don't always make sense. Hippopotamus.
I like
Don't get it.
I have another one. See, it's a meter thing. So you start with 5 syllables, and then 7, and then 5 more.
What's a syllable?
Wow. This is one that I created myself that is called Rex. Python is my friend. It is like a gigantic Tyrannosaurus. Now, see, Tyrannosaurus. I know it's really dark. That sucks. But this is a scene from Jurassic Park. Then you need to get the hell out. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to actually start talking about Python here. It does a couple goofy things. For example, whenever you're dealing with integers, if you're trying to do division on integers, you can suck at this and do, for example, what it's got there, the upper left-hand corner, and just do 1 divided by 10. And because they're both integer objects, it's going to send you an integer object back. So you need to make sure that one of them at least is a floating point. Also, whenever it comes to some of the floating point addition, you can see over here that we got a big number that's not 10, but it should be 10. But you're looking at that and you're saying that there's a greater than or equals, and that's the problem. However, it's really not, because if you just do with a less than, it's doing the same thing. When it comes down to it, though, this is because, you know, floating point math is difficult, because it's difficult to approximate this fractional part here, because we're dealing with negative powers of 2 as opposed to actual numbers as we are with the integer part, if you will. So as it turns out, hugs are the floating point arithmetic for Python.
I didn't want to know where you got that graphic.
Really? I know.
You made
No, I wish I could. I don't have that kind of skill. So our problem here is floating point arithmetic. Our solution is that we can suck it up and learn to deal with the fact that binary estimations are really hard work, like P versus NP hard, not good stuff. Or we can build a rig to give T-Rexes longer arms so they can appropriately hug. I like 2. I think we have to go with 1 because we don't have any good T-Rexes that we can actually model off of. A little bit of a problem there. So I have made Wharf Whacker, which is the world's only pseudo 2-factor, non-replayable, time-based Python port knocking library that uses FIPS 198 compliant hashing algorithms. I know, it's a mouthful. But what that really equates to when it comes down to it, yeah, it's a bunch of crap. This is how I made it, Coding Hero. So in the first working version of Wharf Whacker, I had all these fun things. So there's different protected ports on there, and you could ignore ports. So like if you wanted port 80 to be to where anybody could see it, whether they knocked or not, you could do that, or just protect just 22 or 443 or whatever you wanted to do like that. That's perfectly cool. And there was a big problem here because I wrote it using Scapy so that it would, because I love Scapy. It's hot. But I wrote it using Scapy, and there's a big problem with it because I had 2.3 of Scapy on my server and 2.4 of Wharf, or on my desktop whenever I was writing it. And some of the stuff that I was using in Scapy didn't go back to the other version as well. I also had different versions of Python on both of them and different versions of operating systems. Pretty much my development environment and my production environment were kind of like Laverne and Shirley. So they almost worked. The only thing that's different though is that I did not get to put a glove on the beer as it's going through the brewery there.
I think you're dating yourself.
Me? You don't. I watch a lot of old TV. Don't leave my house. So it turns out that I do need to retitle the talk. I'm all right at Python, as it turns out. So can you. So really our problem here is the fact that we have external dependencies. Our solution is that we can remove the need for those dependencies so that we don't have to deal with that. Or we can just say screw it and deal with it. The problem here is that I actually wanted something that other people could use, not that they ever will. But you gotta work with that. So it was time for a rewrite. Threw out Scapy, and I decided to redo it all with threading in the socket server class, which I like the socket server class because you get to overload your handler function, tell it to serve forever. And basically what you get is something that has all that cola flavor with no calories. However, at the same time here, I had some threads that were creating threads. So that they'd create a thread. All right, I started off with the initial thread, create a new one that actually would listen to everything, and then it would create new threads that everybody would connect to. And that worked out pretty well on my desktop machine. But once I got it to my server, we had some problems. But overall, though, it had a minty fresh flavor. And I think it's time for a live demo. Thank you. So yeah, it's time for a live demo here. So let's get this started here.
First 5 rows will get wet.
Probably work on Pepsi.
Wait, what?
It only works on Pepsi.
No, it's Diet Coke.
You blew up your
Those aren't
hotel
real
room
Mentos.
for all this.
What the hell? God.
Demo guides.
I apologize.
Now
It turns out live demos are a bad idea.
Don't open that later.
It tastes milk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, watch it explode in a second.
So this whole thing, it turns out that I needed to retitle the talk after I worked on this. So I'm all right at Python, but really I'm just okay at Python. So yeah, I'm okay. And the real problem here is the global interpreter lock. So what happens is whenever with Python, it basically sets the objects that you're dealing with into a lock. So if I'm trying to contact it with multiple threads, if they both try to grab it at the same time, the other ones will have to wait until that first one's done before it can actually let it do anything else. So what I had was about 30 to 40 different threads that were trying to grab the same thing. Now the other thing is because of this, your Python will only run on one core of your processor and all. And I did this on my VPS, which was not mine, or I was borrowing it. I'm renting it from somebody. And I crashed that a couple times. I feel really bad about it still, even though it was only like 20 minutes of total downtime. But it was still really embarrassing to do something like that. The solutions for this, and this is also what I like to call it, and it's a fail camp of necessity that really ruins your day if you're using threads. But as it turns out, I'm not the only one that doesn't really enjoy the global interpreter lock. There's apparently pretty much a community of people that have created images like this and other things to try to get rid of it and get it out of the CPython implementation. So clapping is a little bit like the global interpreter lock. T-Rexes have a hard time with it. So our problem is the global interpreter lock, and our solution is that we can either rewrite our code so that it doesn't use both of those things at the same time and cause a lot of thrashing here, or we can use Jython, which does not include the global interpreter lock. So that means it was time for rewrite number 2, and I removed the thread explosions, which, by the way, new Michael Bay film, it's going to be epic. I decided to use the select statement instead. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the select statement, and this is even more difficult, but you can read the white stuff, and the comments don't matter. But what you can do is you set up your sockets, and you come down through here, tell them to listen, and then basically what select will do is it will sort through the ones that actually have responses and give those to you in a list, so that you can do things to that group of them and not have to worry about what else is connecting. So you can loop that inside a while true or a while 7, as I like to use, and just keep it going forever. However, directly from the sockets how-to page for the select statement and whatnot, it says that one nasty problem with select is that if somewhere in those inputs of the list of sockets it has died a nasty death, the select statement will fail. You then need to loop through every single damn socket in all those lists. Seriously, it says that. And do that thing until you find the bad one. It's a timeout, or the timeout of 0 means it won't take long, but it's very ugly. You just have to deal with it. But as it turns out, I am like a socket. So I will sit around and wait for communication. All right? Yeah, because I'm open and ready to go. And then whenever I get it, I'm just going to communicate like hell. You're going to hear from me constantly. But the problem is that sometimes people aren't very good at letting you know whenever they're done talking. And so you end up sitting around like that for a while. So what I'd like to say is, don't be a jackass. Use the shutdown method on your sockets before you close them, and actually close them. Also, don't continuously reschedule with someone instead of just saying that you don't want to go out with them. Now, I've caught on to this, as it turns out, and I've realized that when it's happening. So what I like to do is continue to make plans with them because I know how nervous and anxious it makes them to deal with me. Yes, I'm trolling them at their own game, and I love it. But basically, I'll be like, hey, oh, they're not going to make my date on Thursday. Oh, well, I already had plans. So let's make another one for next Wednesday. Also, don't use the last roll of toilet paper and not apply a new roll. Please. And when you do, it goes on like that. Not the other way around. So let's go to my sample select code here. This is well, the part that says reads, that's pseudocode. So you can't actually do that with Python, unfortunately. You can't just say, make me 1,000 sockets. But this is my select code, and this is the output that I got. Let's look at this select code again, all right? See, select.py is the name, and then all of this. Does anybody know what the problem here is?
You're using Python.
Oh.
That was awesome.
Better than Perl.
Oh.
So Python is like Dino Riders. Did anybody watch this show? It had a single season, and its entire purpose was to sell these freaking awesome toys. So the libraries in Python are a lot like the Dino Riders thing. You've got your T-Rex, that's your Python, but you've got all these little accessories that look terrible on this screen. And what you could do with all these different accessories is attach them to your T-Rex, and it would be amazing. Look at this shit. He's got buzzsaws on his knees. You can't beat that. So that's what you could do there. But the issue here is that when it comes to the file names, the import much like a small child with the Dino Rider toys, if I have 2 of them right next to me, I'm going to attach those right away. I'm not even going to think about going and finding the other ones. So when it comes down to this, the solution to my problem here is that you can either bang your head against your desk for 2 to 3 hours, staring at your code and all the man pages and everything, trying to figure out what the hell you did wrong, or you can use a good naming convention for your test scripts and add something like -text on there. Because what was happening is that the import select at the very beginning decided, hey, I'm going to look in this folder for select.py. Hey, look, I found a select.py, which was the name of the script. So it included itself and then tried to run again. Over and over and over again, essentially. And it was thoroughly embarrassing. I wanted to die whenever I actually found out the problem, or found out the solution, because that just, no. All right. So I'm going to go off the Python topic here and present to you guys something that I found out about 2 weeks ago that blew my mind. All right. I have a situation where I want pancakes. All right. I have 2 problems with this. 1, I have a dirty kitchen. 2, I'm a lazy bachelor. Dirty kitchen. So
That looks pretty clean.
I know, I had to dirty up. So my solution was the following. I took my ingredients, well, after bacon. The beer's empty. It wasn't empty at the time.
I want to know how you're a bachelor with eggs.
He's had chickens thrown at him all morning.
Well, no, see, how that happens is that there's a Whole Foods that's about 3 minutes from where I live, walking distance, and so I don't get in my car and drive anywhere if I don't have to.
Pancakes at their buffet?
So anyways, this is where the magic's going to happen, all right? You're going to take all those ingredients and put them inside a plastic bag. Start with your dry, and then add a single egg and your milk, all right? Zip that thing up and shake it up, all right? So you end up with all your batter inside of this lovely plastic bag here, all right? And then it's cooking time. You're going to start off by biting off one of the corners. Don't cut it, that's not cool.
Don't choke on it.
Yeah, you have to spit it out or something. Then you pour the batter onto your pan, all right? Then you want a cup that you can put the bag inside of so the batter doesn't go everywhere. That is an important step.
Empty the cup first.
Maybe. But it's blurry, but you can see there's pancakes up there. I got 5 pancakes out of that. It's pretty decent. I used almost all of the batter. That's something that is pretty damn cool. What?
You instant messaged me as soon as
Yeah, I
you
did.
that.
It was
so
amazing. I'm
proud.
like, holy crap, my mind is blown.
I've been doing that for years. Oh.
Shoot the poor man.
So why the hell would I use HMACS in there, which is where the FIPS compliant hashing algorithm comes in. They love this stuff. The reason is that you can do a couple different ways of transferring a password or something of that sort. You could do like a, hey, if it's, I'll say it first, then you say it, or you can both write it down in exchange. You can even have something where you both at the count of 3 say the password. But the problem with that is that you're giving the password to the other person and whatnot. So you can also do a password hashing algorithm and compare those. However, the problem with that I find is that you're going to get some guy that looks like that, and he's going to take a bunch of computers that look like that. He's going to turn your hash that looks like that into your password really quickly. Also, I said sudo 2-factor earlier. It's pretty cool, right? I got bored one day, and I made this, which is a 2-factor token for my port knocker. You can get these images from me later. They're a lot brighter here. I blame Martin, because he ignored the room.
Jason, could you stand by the projector for a few minutes?
They're going to warm up some more, yeah. But whenever I was making this, I did actually have some issues with this token, because it's basically just a teensy, a real-time clock, and an LED or LCD display. So it has no LED, and then a battery, which is in that upper right-hand corner of that lower image. So this is what I had for my code on the actual device on the two-factor token. And then this is the code that I had on my actual server and whatnot for determining what it was using for the time for the actual hash of the for the HMAC and all that it's doing. My biggest problem though is that my server was in Dallas and my users in like Washington DC. GM time does not usually equal local time unless you happen to be in, you know, Greenwich, and then it actually does. So I spent a lot of time on this one too. So you want to make sure that your time sync kind of stuff is matched up, because if you don't, you're gonna host some stuff. At this point, I'm done with the talk. All right. So I've got some thank yous and some cake. All right. There's no actual cake.
The cake is a lie.
The real cake's a lie. I'd like to thank anybody else who's ever written a port knocker, because you gave me great ideas to steal. I would like to thank all the platypodes everywhere. That is the correct pluralization of platypode. Multiple platypus is said wrong. Platypi is not correct, sadly. I'd like to thank all of my ex-girlfriends, because if it wasn't for you, I would not have the time to do stuff like this.
There's too many good lists on the
Let's see here. Here's my contact information, and here's our cake. You need a cat slide too. This is actually an image that I found that is a 3-cat moon with Ron Hall image on the moon. That's pretty freaking cool. Do we have any questions?
Google to find that image.
Yes, I did. I don't remember what I Googled to find it.
Because I want to know.
It probably involved cats. Actually, to be honest, I probably looked for 3-cat moon, and that's what came up. And I found that, and I had to include it. It's too amazing. What's that?
That was a door closing.
Sorry, I got all excited. And it turns out that the door is just closing. I hate you all.
How did you square away the time versus the hash?
What are you saying?
Like you were talking about, you were using Greenwich Mean Time.
Yeah.
And then local time, but how did you end up like squaring away, straightening it
Okay,
up?
I ended up using just GM time all the time for everything, which meant that I had to find some other library, because for the teensy I was using Arduino, and actually, whatever that scripting language is, can't remember off the top of my head. I'm apparently not very good at that one either.
Next year.
Next year, yes, I can talk about that. Yeah, that's the biggest thing, is you want to make sure that you have some sort of syncing that's actually syncing and not using other things. Because I didn't actually want to include any sort of window for the time, because I don't like that. I think that gives attackers twice as much for that amount of time to actually get into things, and I think that's too much to do. Anything else?
Did you actually eat the pancakes?
Yes, I ate the pancakes.
How were they?
Those were some of the tastiest pancakes I've had in a while.
And there was no waste.
No way. Well, very, very little.
Very little.
Very little. And additional bonus, no cleanup. Yeah.
Serious question. What, you know, a lot of people that are going to be messing around with Python, they're going to be having a lot of the same problems, struggles with you. What was your best resource for finding out the solution to these problems?
The best resource is actually the Python site itself. They've got the wiki that they have going on there, or essentially wiki through all the manuals. And most of the stuff's actually defined in there pretty well. It's just you kind of need to take the time to actually read it, and not just skim and go, oh, well, I could just do this and this. That it doesn't work out very well if you do that.
I was a little thrown by a statement you just made, because I've been dealing with two-factor for quite a while now. You said you don't like a time window.
I
How
don't
are you
like
dealing
time.
with drift?
I don't.
You don't do it?
I don't care about it. I'm a jerk like that. If you're off, I just go away. Get on. But I also have so few users for this.
I was going to say. One user?
One user.
Just
And if it doesn't work, you just rewrite it
Yeah.
to work better.
Exactly. I'm going to write an Android app to actually do the two-factor as well, so other people don't have to like solder their own token together. Which, by the way, I didn't list this inside the requirements or the parts list, but there's about 1 pound of my flesh in there as well, because I burn myself a lot when I'm soldering. Yeah.
Do you have a step-by-step on how to build the token?
I can make one, yeah. There are better ways to do it. I did it with what I had around, but yeah.
I mean, especially for those who just want to mess around with it and see how it works. So.
Yeah, I'll put one of those together. Yeah. Anybody in the back who's just here for the next talk? Dave. Yeah, I saw you come in the last 5 minutes. All right, guys. Thanks very much.